What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kickash Podcast. We are here today to take a look at the WWE side of the wrestling world and preview and do a little prediction show for this upcoming weekend's, SummerSlam 2024, airing live from Cleveland, Ohio. Again, I love a good Saturday pay-per-view, PLE, so sign me up for that. But we do have a brief, small update regarding the whole Shane McMahon AEW of it all, which actually does kind of tie in slightly to WWE, right? Just kind of. But regardless, we're just going to touch on that really quick before we get into the predictions for SummerSlam itself. But as always, thank you so much for checking out the show. If you're watching on YouTube, I appreciate you. Feel free to like, subscribe, whatever you feel like doing over there, and comment. Again, I have said multiple times I'm not a big social media person, but the whole point of this is interaction, right? And sometimes for me it's just a little awkward. Even just doing this is awkward. And it's just still so funny to me that people listen and hear, whether it's thousands or just one person. It's still pretty cool to me that someone likes to listen to me vent about wrestling. So thank you guys again, and feel free to follow on Twitter at Kickash Podcast _. You can follow me personally at ASHMANNS. But with all that out of the way, again, we're going to jump into the brief update regarding Shane McMahon and AEW. The update actually came from a surprising source. That of one Bully Ray, Bubba Ray Dudley. I am pulling it up here really quick. This is not the, I'm gonna share my screen once you get to the SummerSlam part of it, because there's just a really cool graphic that I saw from Reddit actually that a user made, so I wanted to show you guys that. But yeah, so Bully Ray, Bubba Ray Dudley, he, of course, if you don't know, there's a show on on Sirius XM called Busted Open Radio. Dave LaGreca started that show about, was it 13, 15 years ago or something like that. So yeah, if you have Sirius and you have not heard of the wrestling show on Sirius XM, definitely check it out. It's not for everyone. I enjoy it off and on. I do not have the subscription anymore. It's just one of those things that I had to eliminate out of the budget, right? But yeah, so that's where Bully Ray was speaking, and that's kind of where he broke this news, it appears. It looks like he did so on his Busted Open After Dark radio show that he does covering AEW Dynamite immediately after it goes on, or off the air rather. He said, I'm gonna read it here. He says, quote, Tony and I, and oh, so before I read the quote, so Bully Ray reached out to, let me actually see if I can pull that up. Where is it here? I believe he said he tweeted, or not tweeted, God, that'd be crazy. He texted rather. Texted Shane and reached out to Shane for a brief update, and this was the response and pretty much the synopsis that Bully Ray got back from Shane McMahon. Excuse me. He says, quote, Tony and I were, and this is coming from Shane again, Tony and I were connected through a mutual friend, and we had a great meeting. We talked about many things, but mostly our shared love for the business and the rewards and challenges of working with family. I congratulated him on the 5-year anniversary of AEW and look forward to how he evolves the business moving forward rather. So, a couple things with that. And if you have listened to me before, you guys know I seem to nitpick certain things. And words for me are just very powerful, right? And the wording and people's word choice says a lot, in my opinion, and for a lot of different reasons. And with this statement, especially knowing it's going to be out in the public, it's interesting that first of all, the connecting through a mutual friend is not surprising, right? I think at one point they had said, or there was reports that Mercedes Moné had ran into Shane at an airport or something. I didn't hear of that originally when it happened. I vaguely heard it. I think some show I was listening to when I was falling asleep last night, but I heard of that. So possibly was it her? Who knows? There's many people obviously that work in AEW that are former WWE talent, right? So whoever the mutual friend was, it could be a number of people. So that's honestly kind of neither here nor there for me. But he goes on to say again, they talked about many things, but most importantly, our shared love for the business. So that shows again that he still has love for the business, and it's still in him, which isn't surprising to me. But some people, just some comments right there, like, oh, like, why would he even want to be involved with how his family has been involved, the McMahon name specifically has been involved in some not great things within the past couple of years. So some people were surprised that he still had a love for the business, and to me, that's not really surprising. But I get where people are coming from. But he continues the shared love for the business and the rewards and challenges of working with family. That is very interesting to me because he could have very easily left that out. No comment, right? And again, I'm not expecting, even if he were to end up working for AEW or to go on some media press, like whatever, and go out there on like a media tour, right? Tour is what I was looking for. And to just start giving interviews for whatever reason. I never would have pegged him to be someone to comment specifically on what's going on. I would expect a no comment for him, or I can't discuss ongoing legal matters or something to that effect. And I 100% would not only expect that from him, like I said, but like I would want him to say that, to be honest with you. I don't think that he really is probably wanting to discuss anything in that regard, or to even bring any type of awareness to it. So the fact that he even mentioned the rewards and challenges of working with family was just interesting to me, because like I said, he could have very easily left that out. But again, if this whole meeting was pretty much just like a hey, how you doing, who are you type thing, and kind of like a first date in a lot of ways for Tony and Shane. um I don't know why that just sounded so cute after I said their first names and after a first date, but anyway, um it makes sense that they would bond over stuff like that or something like that, in particular because they're both sons of billionaires. And I don't know the entire story of the Khan family, but my understanding, Shad Khan, Tony Khan's father, is a self-made billionaire, and I'm not gonna even speculate, but I'm pretty certain that he came over here from a different country, and he was the one who kind of like got the family business going, made investments, and just kind of it just snowballed uphill in the best way possible for them going forward, and obviously the owner of the Jaguars and things like that. But if you think about it, they really do. And I didn't even think about it until I read his response there regarding the family portion. They do have a very interesting commonality when it comes to being the sons of billionaires, right? In two very distinctive and powerful brands, one being a football team, regardless if the Jaguars are the number one team in the NFL or they're the shittiest team, right? It's you still excuse me, are the owner of an NFL team. So that holds a lot of power, right? On the flip side, you have Vince McMahon, previously the owner of WWE, a multi-billion-dollar company. He bought it from his father and made it into what it is, and at least what it was as of a few years ago. But he was the one who got the ball rolling for everything, put the deals in play, made it to what it was, and made it to a point where it can be sold for, what was it, or merged for like $9 billion or something like that. So the pressures that Shane and Tony Khan share are stuff that we would, me for instance, I would never understand, right? Yes, it's easy for me to sit here and be like, oh, like, you probably had the best life, and make a lot of assumptions one way, and maybe some of them are true, but there's probably a lot of pressures and a lot of stresses and a lot of just added anxiety that someone like me, again, I would never understand, and a pressure or a a level that you have to live up to, right? And a one of those situations where it's like a shoe that you have to fill type of situations, and a shoe they have to fit rather. So yeah, so again, maybe that's nothing, but to me it meant something, and it was very interesting that he mentioned that, and it just made me start thinking of that aspect that they share in common together, which could be more bonding than any of us really realize. Shane could come in maybe like an older brother type and be like, yo, like, I understand where you're going through, I've been there, I also understand the specific business that you're in very, very well. And yeah, like I mentioned in the other show, just kind of going from there, and just taking the business side of it and the deals and the resources and the connections that he has, and just using it to amplify AEW for their particular deals that they have coming up and deals that they're going to want to make in the future. And just, again, the McMahon name isn't what it used to be right now, but there is, yes, it's always going to have that caveat there, but Shane isn't Vince, you know what I mean? And it's, and to our knowledge, now if things come out that he was more involved and he had knowledge of what was going on, that's completely different, right? But as of right now, there's never been any mention of Shane having any type of involvement, any know of what was going on. He wasn't even an executive in WWE when Miss Grant was working there. So again, I'm not gonna obviously get into all that here right now, but to me, I think in that respect, a lot of your CEOs, your bigwigs and companies that make the power moves and the power plays, they can overlook something that potentially Shane's father did, right? And that has no relation and affiliation with him besides just having the same last name. So yeah, and again, not going to get into all that specifically right now, but him mentioning the family part is kind of what just kind of sparked that thought process for me. But and again, he just closed with congratulating him, Tony Khan, on the 5-year anniversary of AEW and looked forward to how he evolves the business moving forward. So shows he's paying attention, shows he's maybe not watching directly each week. But it's interesting, you know what I mean? He didn't have to talk to him at all, first of all. And I don't know. Again, it's just because you don't wish ill or death to your competition doesn't mean that you're actively supporting and helping them, moving forward. So it could have very easily just been a, hey, how you doing? Let's meet, let's chat. Or maybe, maybe it is going to be nothing official, nothing paid for on the books, but just like an ear for Tony Khan to go to, right? Maybe it's just something, hey, and not saying again that Shane McMahon is the genius of the pro wrestling world, but again, he does have certain knowledge and experience that other people and a lot of people don't have. So if it's a situation where it's a deal potentially or something like that, or just like, hey, what do you think this finish should be? Maybe that is something that Tony Khan just wants and would feel more comfortable having. And McMahon, as crazy as it is with how much he's bashed, the McMahon name and the affiliation with WWE, right? And he called them the Harvey Weinstein of the wrestling world, right? So it's just kind of, that part is kind of funny. But again, I know in the past I've said, and I've been the person to say, like, utilize the resources that you have, right? And if you have an opportunity, even just to maybe once a month, just call Shane McMahon or just be friendly with him or just send him a text, be like, hey, I'm stuck with this situation. What would you do? And just go from there. And it'd be nothing official, then that's cool. And I'm happy for both sides. And that would be really cool for the wrestling world and the wrestling industry, whether we see it directly impacting it or not. We don't need to know everything, So I just think it was a very interesting statement. And I actually ended up spending more time than I thought on it. But I just wanted to follow up on that before we dive into the SummerSlam part, especially since I just put out a video on it last night. But yeah, it's very interesting to see what the next couple of months will bring to it. In my opinion, I think we could be on the brink of something pretty big. Maybe not as groundbreaking or as newsworthy as Shane aligning with AEW and officially like becoming a partner or just being elite. Could you imagine that graphic? That'd just be like an official graphic. Like that'd just be effing crazy. But I just feel like something maybe out of the box will happen before the end of the year. So be interesting to see. With that out of the way, though, we are going to officially move over to the WWE side of things and the matter at hand, and that is SummerSlam. It's one of the big four pay-per-views. It's definitely becoming a bigger deal as we move forward with time. What is it, 2020? Was it 26 or 27? They already announced for Minnesota. So that's pretty cool. They're trying to make it a big deal. Obviously, continuing with the stadium type feel. that Tony Khan, Nick Khan had wanted for more of the pay-per-view. So this is a no-brainer, especially with SummerSlam essentially being the number two, right? The number two almost fell off my head. The number two event of the year, the second biggest event of the year. So with that being said, I do want to, before we get into the actual card itself, I wanted to share, like I said, this really cool graphic. When I was searching for the match card, just to pull up, a rundown, I came across Reddit. And to be honest with you guys, I am not a Reddit person. I don't even know anything about it. Or I'm not going to say that. I know about it, but I know nothing of how to navigate it. And I wanted to reach out to the guy to say, hey, like, would it be cool if I saved it and used it as the like cover thumbnail for this episode? But I don't know how to reach out to people on there, so there's that. But I'm gonna pull it up here. And yeah, here we go. It's just really fucking cool. I'm gonna see if I can. Yeah, I can obviously. Oh, geez, I don't want to zoom in that much, but I'll just leave it at that. This guy, and to give him proper credit verbally, it was made by Evan VB20, I believe. Yeah, Evan VB 29. Evan VB 29. So shout out to you, man. That's fucking great. I love it. I love it, the throwback feel, but the modern touch with it, with some of the fonts and the logos and things too. It's just really, really cool. And I would love to get a poster of it. So yeah, so shout out to you, man. And I just wanted to share this and let you guys check it out if you're watching on YouTube. And if not, feel free to check it out. It's around the 15-ish minute mark, I believe we're at. But obviously we have our main event at the top, and we'll be going through the card here in a few moments. But just check it out if you guys have a moment, or if you don't want to watch this on YouTube, feel free to check out Reddit. Hopefully you know how to navigate Reddit, because that's all I got for you. But yeah, I just wanted to shout out him because he did great work there. But gonna move over to the, I'm gonna leave that put up there though. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Moving over to the actual card itself though, and I hear that the pre-show is 3 fucking hours, which is insane. I don't see any breakdown or any lineups listed for, just double checking. Yeah. No matches announced as of right now for the 3-hour pre-show, but I mean, you gotta fucking put something in there for 3 hours. You can't just have your random, what's it gonna be, like Big E, just your random assortment of commentators just previewing the show for 3 hours. You have to have some type of match on there, and the video packages can only be replayed but so much. So let's please not do that. And to be honest with you, I don't even know why I'm sitting here like bitching about it, because I'm not gonna watch the pre-show. I'm not gonna watch a pre-show. I was about to say I'm gonna be at work, but I'm not even gonna be at work. I'm just not gonna fucking watch it. But the actual card itself. Oh, nice. There's a pretty cool advertisement. The card itself, one of the matches that we have listed on here. I don't know if it's necessarily the opener, but it'd be really cool if it was. And I think it'd be fun to start the pay-per-view off, PLE, off with a bang. Excuse me. And that is the Intercontinental Championship. You have your champion going into the PLE, Sami Zayn, facing off against Braun Breaker. I was in the camp that Braun was going to win in, what was it, Montreal? When they were in Canada a couple months ago, or a month ago. I have no idea, concept of time. But I'm still thinking like, man, like, and I'll wait and see how this match plays out at SummerSlam, but I still feel like they should have pulled the trigger with Braun in Sami Zayn's home country, if nothing else. I don't remember the exact province or where they were located. If that was I don't think it was his exact hometown, but still his home country, right? I still think it would have packed a bigger punch and had more of an impact if Breaker would have won then. So that's just where I'm sitting at with this one. But I think it's one of those situations where they didn't do it originally, maybe to hold off until a bigger event, technically speaking, which is SummerSlam, and to crown Braun at one of the big fours. So I do think that this is Braun's moment. I do think that they are going to give it to Braun Breaker, and he's going to get the victory and become your new Intercontinental Champion. I think it's obviously time for reasons I just stated. He's really adapted to the main roster much better than I even anticipated. I thought maybe it would be kind of awkward just having him like the first like few months with transition, but no, he really adapted like super well. So I'm very happy for him, and this guy is a star. And Chris Van Vliet did an interview with Goldberg a couple days ago, and I started to watch it because I thought it'd be kind of intriguing. I had it on in the background while I was doing some work, and I couldn't finish it. But he Goldberg mentioned, thought the obvious comparisons between the two, that he's super proud of Braun and super excited for him, and apparently they're friendly with each other. So that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like, say what you want about Goldberg, but he seems to be very supportive and no like bitterness or like you're stealing my style type shit from him. Seems to be very supportive. So very cool, and a shout out to him. But my opinion, this is the moment for Braun Breaker. And if not, I don't see when else you would, and I don't see why you would continue it. Yeah, I don't know. If they don't pull the trigger here, like, to me, it's like, why not? I would really want to see why and what they had in store for after SummerSlam with the follow up on this one. If they don't switch the title here, the other matchup on the night that people are actually kind of, I've seen mixed reviews, to be honest with you. And going into it a couple months ago specifically, I would have been maybe 100% on one side, but now I am a little bit more torn. And that's the United States Championship match. You have your United States champion, Logan Paul, going into his legit, well, I think was he born in Puerto Rico and then moved to Ohio? Or whatever, but he's from Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio. Going in there as your US champion, defending against LA Knight. Is this another situation for me where, and that's why it's pretty interesting, where if you don't pull the trigger on LA Knight now, when are you going to? And especially with LA Knight, I think a little bit more so than Braun Breaker, it's one of those situations where he's maintained his popularity, and all the credit to him, and much credit to him, for over a year now, I think. Yeah, because it was definitely when Roman was still champion, and so it's definitely been over a year. It's not at the same level that it once was, but it's still there, and people are still stoked to see him, very excited to hear him speak, and that's the thing. He's still engaging, and he still captivates the audience, right? So I think this, again, kind of the same situation that I laid out for Braun Breaker winning in Canada against Sami Zayn. I would kind of go for here, LA Knight winning against Logan Paul in Ohio. Yes, it's nowhere near the same level of devotion that Canada has for Sami Zayn, but it's still Logan Paul's hometown, right? And even if he were to get more cheers than he normally would in any other area of the world, essentially, um, he has a good shot of getting maybe 45, maybe even 50% of the cheers. Maybe it's split down the middle, right? Because he is from Ohio. Um, but regardless, it is and would be a big deal having LA Knight win against Logan Paul. Yes, it's Ohio, so it may just sound like crazy, but it would be, and especially in that area too, with the ties that Logan Paul has to it. And I think it would be a good griping point for Paul as well. To him, part of his plea and his reasoning for a rematch that he's going to want to have after losing is he was embarrassed. He was in his home country, his home state. I'm not sure if he's specifically from Cleveland or if it was a different city. But yeah, so I think you maybe go 2 for 2 here and crown a new US champion as well, and just really shake up the mid card level, and just, I don't see why not. Like, yes, and again, I guess you can make more of a case for Logan Paul to retain against LA Knight because of the name of Logan Paul and where he takes the title. And granted, he has done a lot for I'm not gonna say he's done a lot for it, but he is not ashamed to be a pro wrestler. He is not ashamed to be a WWE champion. He loves it. He embraces it. He flaunts that championship in multiple ways. If you've seen his Instagram, you know what I'm talking about. And he takes it everywhere he goes, whether it's just like a vacation, or if he's going to a UFC event, or if he's going to watch his brother in a fight. He he owns it. So I do respect him for that too, and I do respect him for a number of reasons actually. So yeah, like I would understand why they'd want to keep it on him, but I think it's not even striking while the iron is hot because it's not necessarily hot any longer for LA Knight, but it's still burning, man. It's still sizzling. So why not still strike? But moving on, we have I think sorry guys, I didn't bring water here. We have WWE Women's Champion Bailey, your champion, facing off and defending her title against Nia Jax. This one, I don't think we're gonna have a title change here. I think Bailey is gonna retain. I think it's too soon. I think we still need maybe not, no, we still can get more out of a run from Bailey as the champion. And I think Nia Jax is a good opponent for Bailey, obviously. And I wouldn't be shocked or disappointed if she did beat Bailey, but I don't think that Nia's moment is going to be here. And obviously, we still have Tiffany Stratton holding the Money in the Bank briefcase. So does she cash in and make it a three-way? I I don't think so, just because she was friends with Nia Jax, right? And then immediately, I just for whatever reason it just stuck in my head. The press conference that they did after Money in the Bank, she mentioned that she didn't want to cash in on Nia. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just don't see her cashing in yet. So, or if she does it, it would be after the match, after Bailey's already won, and then winning there. But I see Bailey retaining, but I don't see a cash in quite yet. Speaking of the women's division, we have our women's world champion, Liv Morgan, defending against Mommy, Rhea Ripley, who is back, and it is so great to see her back on our TVs every Monday. Um, the story here, obviously, is the love triangle between Rhea Ripley, Dom, and Liv Morgan. I've thought about this, and some people, have thrown in there possibly like Dominic getting a wool pulled over his eyes and Finn being the one to come in and swoop up Liv and be Liv's knight in shining armor and kind of take over. But um I don't I don't see that. I would honestly, as much as I'm torn because I love Dominic and Rhea together, but I think maybe it is time for something new, and just the chemistry that Liv and Dominic have together. I think you can really capitalize on this or on that rather, and keep this storyline going and kind of give it new life. Um and extend the chase for Rhea Ripley as well. So I don't see Rhea winning here. I see Liv retaining. I'm just torn on if I see it being at the hands of Dominic costing Liv, or I'm sorry, costing Rhea, and directly like cheating to help Liv, or if it's another situation like where he slides the chair in the ring and it goes directly like perfectly in between the both of them, and who knows who he was sliding it to. That situation is similar to that, right? Where it's kind of uncertain who he was really trying to help. I don't want to see that, and I don't think that we're going to get that. I think it's going to be they're gonna pull the trigger, and I think Dominic is gonna officially line with Liv. And it hurts me to say, because I'm obviously love Rhea Ripley, but she, it's fun watching her chase for the. And granted, she didn't have that many opponents, right? But she was a dominant champion in a sense that she was a star, and when she was a champion, it felt like a big deal, and she really just brought importance and significance to the title. So I think you want to keep her in chase mode for a little bit longer. Bad Blood is right around the corner. I think it's a perfect paper PLE for a lot of these feuds going forward, and I think this one's going to continue. So my money is on Liv Morgan retaining, and I think we finally get dissension in the Judgment Day officially, and Dominic turns on Rhea, which will then leave us to wonder what's going to happen with the rest of Judgment Day. Do they side with Dominic? Is it a split? Does Rhea and Damian Priest kind of go off and do their own thing, and they align together, and then Finn Balor takes the side, and JD for that take the side of Dominic, and they kind of form their own little group, and then Carlito was just doing whatever. So it'd be really interesting to see, and that's why I feel like the time is now to kind of make that change, because you don't have to obviously dissolve the Judgment Day. It's quite the opposite, just doing a spinoff of it. Next up, though, we have maybe the match I'm looking forward to the most, and that's CM Punk, obviously, versus Drew McIntyre with your special guest referee, Seth Rollins. Look, this story has been going on for months. You're not new here if you're checking out my channel, so I don't have to go over the entirety of the story. I think they have done a very good job with keeping the story alive and adding to it and building more steam and actually making it much more than what it originally was. So with that being said, I think poor Drew is going to end up getting screwed again, and or just end up losing. But I think it's going to be a situation where maybe Seth goes to hit Punk and ends up hitting Drew, and Seth has to count the 3, or maybe a situation where Drew snaps and he beats on Seth, and takes Seth out, and then CM Punk, while Drew's distracted with Seth, and his rage just takes him over, while he's maybe like looking down on Seth as Seth is just writhing in pain, right? Maybe Drew turns around and CM Punk hits him with the go to sleep. Another referee comes, and this is obviously like 20-25 minutes into the match at this point, right? Another referee comes down. CM Punk gets the 1-2-3 that way. Drew isn't necessarily hurt because, again, he cost himself. His anger is the one that costed him a victory, and it's just going to make him even more infuriated and want to seek revenge on Punk, right? I don't think Punk is going to get his beaded bracelet back. I think that's maybe something else that Drew can hold on to and just kind of dangle the carrot with Punk going forward. I do see them facing off at Bad Blood, possibly in a Hell in a Cell match. I think that'd be pretty cool and very fitting for multiple reasons, right? The first Hell in a Cell and things like that. But I think this is just the beginning for this. And I think, again, they've done a very good job keeping it going. Is it as hot as it once was? No, but that's to be expected when you don't have Punk there every week, right? When you have the issues that were going on and the injuries that were sidelining Punk. So now that he's cleared, excuse me, and good to go since we have the match official, I think this is really going to get things not back on track, but just realigned and get some people who are maybe doubting it. I really need to get some water. Who are doubting it just back into it. And I think the match itself is going to be just hard hitting, brutal, stiff, in all the best ways. And and again, shout out to Drew for the trolling that he's done. The picture with him and Jack Perry is, I think, just perfect. Just great job. But I don't see Seth being that much of a influence, to be honest with you. I don't think he's gonna have that big of a factor. I actually think that it's gonna go down how I said. Maybe he does. Maybe he does look to cost Drew or whatever. But I think Seth is a good guy right now, and I don't know. I just don't see him. I think he's all talk when it comes to like really getting involved in shit. I think maybe he'll be more physical when it comes to like pushing them and like physically pulling them off of each other and stuff like that. But I don't see him like really actively like beating one of them down or anything like that. Next up, we have the World Heavyweight Championship. Your champion is Damian Priest defending against Gunther. Look, this one, I think it's time. I've been a big fan of Damian Priest and very impressed with what he's done since WrestleMania. And I think that he's had a lot of tainted victories, but I think that it wasn't it wasn't one of those reigns like back in the day where it's like, oh, like he wasn't a deserving champion. To me, I think he did deserve it. I think he did live up to the hype, and I think he did elevate it too. And I think he did bring value to the title. So I am right there with him. And because he's done interviews, right? And he's like, like he's doubted his run, but he spoke with Triple H and he really just got like a clear head. So I get that. I get doubting yourself, even though you feel like you're on top, but you're still doubting yourself. And it's just one of those things. So I understand that. So I'm really excited. I think it's actually released today, matter of fact. the documentary that they've done on Damian Priest. I'm really intrigued to see that. So that being said, this is Gunther's time. The videos that they have done with Gunther and the promos that Gunther has blessed us with leading up to this match, it's just amazing. What was Street Trash and it's something like that? It's just his accent, his delivery, the tone, just everything about Gunther. I've really just fallen more in love with his character and his delivery and just him. So, and I know we're not supposed to, right? But this is his time. Yeah, I think, and again, playing into what I was speaking about earlier with Rhea Ripley and the Judgment Day, I think Damian Priest will kind of focus on that in the meantime, and then he could very easily come back into the title picture within a couple months. So if they don't go forward with like an immediate rematch or anything like that, excuse me, I see Gunther winning and kind of just starting fresh and going forward. But officially, my pick is on Gunther becoming the new World Heavyweight Champion, and I just cannot wait to see the celebration. I can already picture his entrance with him standing there and then having the title around his waist. Oh, it's just going to be great. The main event is the undisputed WWE Championship. Your champion, Cody Rhodes, defending against Solo Sikoa. Again, we all know the story here with the Bloodline. I'm a big fan of what they're doing with Jacob Fatu and the new version of the Bloodline. Yes, Solo isn't hitting 100% as much as I maybe would have hoped for, but he's still holding his own and really delivering, I think, in a lot of ways. And he, especially on the mic too, he went from never speaking to really holding some segments. So definitely give him props in that regard. But it's just he doesn't feel like the leader to me for some reason. Like it's just that's the feeling that's just not there for me for whatever reason. He just doesn't feel like like the tribal chief, like the lead, the head of the table of the bloodline right now. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. Look, do I think he's going to beat Cody? Absolutely not. I think this is a no-brainer. Cody Rhodes is going to retain. I think the big question here is, does Roman Reigns return? And if he does, in what capacity? I think it's going to be a situation where, and I was thinking, I was kind of torn, like, is it going to be where the referee's down and Roman makes his grand return? And I don't think so, because by the time it takes Roman to get down to the ring, like they could have had 3 more matches in that time frame. So I don't think it's going to be something like that. I don't see Roman making a big run to the ring, like from the back or through the crowd to beat up Solo or to pull, if like the bloodline, like Jacob Fatu, for instance, like if he's in there beating down Cody, I don't see Roman coming out to make a grand save or anything like that. That's just not Roman's style to me. And if something of that variation does happen, I honestly would be very surprised. I see some shit happening, interference, all that bullshit, but Cody Rhodes retaining, him finding a way to retain, whether he has, like Jay Uso, for instance, or someone else on his side to come out there and help him make the save, or if it's Jimmy, right? Maybe Jimmy makes his return and ends up helping Cody. But I don't think so, because I feel like if you're gonna have Roman return, you don't want Jimmy to return either, even though obviously star level, they're not in the same level, but why waste a return, right? So I don't think we would see both. Maybe I'm wrong in that regard, but to me, I would just hold off on it. So I think if Roman does return, and I would say he will, I think it's they've mentioned it enough, they've mentioned him enough to where it wouldn't be complete, like they've made sense essentially. So I think it's going to be, like I was saying, in the situations where Cody Rhodes finds a way to retain and to beat the bloodline. It's about to pour here if you guys hear the thunder, or if my dogs start whimpering. So I'm sorry. But I think Cody's going to do his celebration. He's going to maybe start walking or like turning to leave the ring, and then Roman Reigns' music is going to hit. We're going to see a oh shit look on Cody's face. Not like he's terrified, but like, oh, like it's about to pick up. And then he continues to walk down the stairs to the from the ring. He starts to make his way up the aisle. Roman and him kind of meet. Roman's obviously coming from the back. They look at each other. kind of do like a nod of acknowledgement, or even just like just the look that they'll give each other. Cody will kind of like maybe do like a small nod and then carry the title over his shoulder and continue on to the back. Kind of like a I see you, I respect you, we have unfinished business, I'll see you later. You handle what you got to handle right now. Solo is regaining himself, kind of staggering in the ring, standing back up. Roman makes his way to the ring, gets in the ring, faces against Solo face to face. Solo's still like collecting himself and like, what the fuck am I looking at? Is this real? And then Roman just kind of maybe like not smirks at him, but just kind of like, I got you, like I'm here. And then that sets up next week's SmackDown. No physicality, no nothing like that. It just sets up SmackDown. Has a good hook. I would say a fucking great hook leading into SmackDown to where you want to see what Roman's going to say. You want to see what the bloodline is going to do, who they're going to side with. Maybe Jimmy returns then and just go from there. So I'm very excited to see what ends up happening with that in that regard. If Roman doesn't return, I will be surprised. So yeah, I think, oh, they just knocked the gate down. Yeah, see, the storm's about to start. I told you they were gonna do that. But yeah, so I would be surprised if Roman does not make his return. I guess you could hold off until like Bad Blood or even Survivor Series, maybe. But again, with them referencing Roman so much and it just kind of being obvious, I don't see why not. Unless Roman's just not ready to come back. Obviously, you know, with him going through the personal family loss that he's recently gone through, losing his father and things like that, and maybe his own health. You know, maybe he's just not ready to come back yet. But again, I don't think we would have had all these seeds planted if he's not ready to return at SummerSlam. But yeah, with that being said, guys, that is the lineup for SummerSlam. I don't see anything else crazy happening. I don't see a John Cena appearance or anything of that nature. Just trying to think. Yeah, I don't really think anything else crazy is gonna happen. I think Roman Reigns is gonna be the big deal and the hook going forward, and just seeing what Roman has to say and what Roman's gonna do with the bloodline and what that means for Solo. So, and hey, and actually thinking about it, with again another reason why Bad Blood is just so fitting. That's October 5th, I think. That what better pay-per-view title, PLE title, than Bad Blood to have Solo versus Roman for their first match. So just throwing it out there. Is that too soon? Is it not a big enough PLE? Is Royal Rumble maybe a little bit bigger for their first one-on-one encounter? Maybe, but again, I don't see why you bring Roman Reigns back potentially this weekend if you're not going to have him be involved in anything physical for another 6 months, 7 months. Yeah, it'd be like 6 months. So that'd be just kind of crazy to me, even on Roman Reigns standards. So that being said, thank you guys so much for checking out the show. Went a little bit longer than I anticipated. As always, I just ramble. But I'm gonna take care of these guys and let them know it's okay, even though it's thundering. But again, thank you for listening, checking out the show. Feel free to follow on Twitter at @KickAshPodcast_. You can follow me personally at ASHMANNS. But until next time, guys, thank you so much again for watching and enjoy some wrestling. Just be safe out there.